So since Comic-Con ended, there have been some people taking a closer look at the trailer that was presented there and had a theory that I guess is worthy of talking about after this. Before we get started on the video today, I just want to ask you to remember to subscribe and to also click the bell so that when new videos come out, we can get them to you as quickly as possible, and also that you won't miss one. The way YouTube is working these days, we never know what order our videos are going to be sent out, so when the latest one comes, we want you to know. So by clicking the bell, that'll allow us to get that information to you in a more efficient manner. So anyway, great appreciation on my part for you to become a subscriber if you've not already subscribed. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and the Borg are back. I don't know. I found that when the Borg were first presented in Star Trek The Next Generation, first they were introduced by Q, who showed Picard and crew that there were things that they shouldn't be too smug about. That is to say, there are aliens out there they could not easily defeat. And that was the purpose of bringing the Borg into our quadrant of the galaxy. And because of this little preview the Q gave, they took an interest in coming this way and eventually came this way when Best of All Worlds episode aired. Now, this was an opportunity to write a story about a new, almost unbeatable enemy, and about the same time that Patrick Stewart was negotiating his contract and had said that maybe he'd had enough of Picard, maybe he could leave, and they were looking for ways that they might be able to write him out. And so they created this story where Picard is abducted by the Borg, and then Riker is put in temporary command. They get him a new first officer, and there is some conflict between the two of them. It's an interesting story. It looks like it's something that if Patrick Stewart had left the show, that a relationship of some sort would have developed between Riker and Shelby. Kind of an interesting thing. It was a turning point, many people said, for Star Trek The Next Generation, coming from rehashes of old original series shows to episodes that really did a better look into the human condition. The one right after the two-part Best of All Worlds is Picard going back to his family farm in France, and you meet his brother and his nephew, and we see something of Picard that we'd never known before. And so his interaction with the Borg, his being assimilated by the Borg, was something that led to the feature film First Contact, which is considered the best of the Next Generation movies, in that he uses his knowledge of the Borg to fight the Borg. And of course, it's also a time travel thing. And this causes, even though it was a very good movie, it causes some problems in the Star Trek universe, because the Borg were encountered by the Enterprise in the 24th century. But in First Contact, we found that they could time travel and went back to Earth right before Zefram Cochrane's flight, where he achieves Warp 1. So in doing so, the Enterprise crew goes down and helps Cochrane. Now, many people think that what happened here when they interfered with history, Cochrane did see the Enterprise. He saw the Enterprise D. And while his own ship, the Phoenix, was basically an ICBM with nacelles, the designs that we had seen of previous starships previous to the Enterprise usually looked different than Enterprise did. And I always thought when they brought in Enterprise was something that was polluted by that visit by the Borg and the visit by Picard to Zefram Cochrane. And perhaps he came up with the idea of the saucer shape in the nacelles instead of the sphere and the nacelles like the Daedalus class ships were that presumably predated Enterprise, something we haven't ever seen again in any of the shows, not Discovery, not The Next Generation, not Voyager, not anybody, and certainly not an Enterprise. So there's been pollution by the Borg. The Borg have time traveled. So is it possible that the Borg could be in season 2 of Star Trek Discovery? And the fact is, absolutely they can. As far as canon goes, whereas the show has not always been very loyal to canon, in this case, the Borg can very perfectly try to travel back in time again to encounter the Federation before it becomes as powerful as it is in the 24th century and assimilate them at that point. Now, that said, why would they put them in the show? Well, it's something like the Daleks in Doctor Who. It seems like you have such a good villain, you just have to keep reusing them. Even though you kill them off in one place, they come back to life somewhere else, and they keep using them over and over. And it's for a different video to talk about whether the Daleks will come back under the new Doctor as they have it now. So, very possible that they'll bring back the Borg because they're an exciting species to feature. They have a lot of steampunk design. They have this lack of conscience, this lack of ability for you to feel for them. They are just the enemy. They're out after you and they take no prisoners. They're just going to assimilate, take what you've got and go with it. We know that there has been talk among the producers of Discovery. Now, the creature shop at Discovery, the people who designed the new Klingons and the people who've done all of the makeup work on all of the other species that have been shown on Discovery, are interested in the Borg and interested in Michael Westmore's original design of them, but want to see what can be done 20 years later. More than 20 years later, when the Borg were capable of doing certain things as far as makeup was concerned. Now we have 3D printing, we have much brighter LEDs, we can do a lot of things now in special effects that we could not do in the 90s. And so they want to kind of do this. They want to kind of have their own interpretation of the Borg. They want to change that a little bit. So it is very possible, and in an interview that they did in May, they said that they wanted to try this out. They said this very thing. So we see the trailer, and in the trailer there are these red masses. Now, my first thought on this was it's like the red matter they used in the JJ Star Trek reboot. And they do tend to like to reuse ideas that they've come up with. And red matter was something that did not start with Star Trek. But at any rate, these red blotches that are going all over the galaxy, that is going to be the driving plot of season 2 of Discovery. They show Burnham facing one of these up close, and you see a figure in the center of that. Now, there have been people who have theorized that that is the Borg Queen. So, with all this together, the fact that the Borg are something that everybody wants to take a shot at because they've used them on not only TNG, but they've also encountered them on Voyager, on Enterprise, of course, in one of the feature films. So, it's very likely that we will see the Borg at some point in the season. It may be the surprise reveal. Who knows? It may be revealed early on while they're still searching for Spock. Now, they didn't know what they were called in Enterprise. It's likely they won't know what they're called in Discovery, and even if they do find a way to communicate with them, it's probably going to be just clamped up as a big secret along with the Mirror Universe in the first season, where they said, okay, all of this is going to be secret. And that's kind of a clunky way of keeping everything in canon, but that seems to be the way they want to do it. So all of that said, I am not personally looking forward to the Borg. I think it's one of those kind of things that you can beat to death by using them too much. I think it was a mistake to put them in Enterprise. I think it was not necessarily a mistake to do it in Voyager because it created 7 of 9, which became kind of an interesting progression after the 4th season began. But I find that something that was supposedly so menacing that it destroyed half of the Starfleet, that a single starship could deal with later, and then a single starship that barely knew what shields were could deal with them earlier than that. So I have difficulty with the whole idea of the Borg already. So unless Discovery can do something interesting that isn't just fighting them, I think they would have been better off leaving them alone. But I want to know what you think. Please let me know in the comments. And finally, before we go, a reminder that if you would subscribe to the channel, you can do that down here. There's a place to click that says subscribers, and if you have not already subscribed, please do so, and you can click the bell, and you'll get notifications of when we put our next video out. Usually we do it near the end of the week, but sometimes when things happen, we will throw one in just to try to throw one in. So thank you for watching, and don't go far.